Yeah. Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. Welcome to our 2022 ski test. Right here we've got the Salomon Qst blank. This is an awesome ski, replaces the Qst 118 as the widest ski that Salomon makes, the widest ski in the Qst line. So pretty squarely their most dedicated powder ski. It is 112 underfoot, so a little wider than the 118. We'll talk about that, how that changes its performance in a little bit. Before we do that, let's talk about some of the other changes to the ski. So a lot of the characteristics have stayed the same. The Qst line in general from 92 to now 112, they all have similar builds. This blank and the new 98 get a couple of additions that the 92 and 106 don't have. So let's look at that first. One of those new additions is this double sidewall. So they've basically got a high density piece of ABS material underfoot kind of stacked on top of the sidewall to give the ski a little bit stronger feel underfoot. So both the 118 and the 98 get that update. This ski has a poplar wood core. We still get Salomon's CFX material. So that's a combination of carbon and flax fibers. Carbon kind of provides the necessary energy that you want. Flax gives it a little more vibration damping. And then we get cork damplifier in the tips and tails. I always like that name. Cork is a really cool material for ski construction. Very, very absorbing of vibrations. And by putting that in the tips and tails and the extremities of the ski, it's really helping to deal with any unwanted deflection and stuff like that. Rocker profile of this ski is more similar to the 118 that it replaces than anything else. Maybe not quite as much as the 118. The 118 specifically had a ton of tail rise. This still has a lot, but I do think the 118 had a little more splay. So this is kind of right in between the rocker profile of the 118 and the 106, maybe leaning a little more towards the 118. Shorter turn radius too. The 118 had a turn radius in the mid 20 meter range. This 186 has a 17 meter turn radius. So overall, this is still just a blast of a powder ski. We were really lucky to have some really good test days on this ski this season. Really got to put it to the use in soft snow conditions. It might not have quite as much float as the 118, but in most situations, and I'm talking 95% of the time you're powder skiing, maybe 99% of the time you're powder skiing, it is not going to lack any float whatsoever. With the rocker lines, with the 112 underfoot waist width, it has plenty of float. It planes out pretty darn easily. Again, I think like the amount of splay helps it plane quicker than some skis that are 112 underfoot. We did do a full review of this ski, and some people were kind of bummed that they went from 118 to 112. I think it benefits more skiers than it hurts. Little quicker edge to edge, just a little bit more nimble, a little bit easier to control. And like I said, I don't feel like you lose much playfulness or much float in powder conditions. Now, the development of this ski is interesting because Salomon basically took a slew of different athletes with different skiing styles, different perspectives, and all had them work on the same ski. Basically, if one skier wanted to add a performance element, as long as it didn't take away from what another skier wanted to do, they would try and add that into the ski. The result is a ski that can be enjoyed by a ton of different skiers. So full directional skiers, people that'll never ski backwards at all, can absolutely enjoy this ski. It's not like a symmetrical, or not like a, you don't have to ski it in a more centered stance. In fact, I would recommend to most people that you don't, because that'll give you more float. So as a directional powder ski, it's a ton of fun. I have kind of a freestyle background, and I really liked the kind of freestyle influence in this ski's shape. Again, you know, the rocker lines are pretty significant, and there's quite a bit of tail rocker back there. So I found that you could move the bindings forward a little bit if you wanted a more centered powder ski. That does kind of take away some performance in powder. You know, having a longer tip gives you more float. Generally, most people don't like to go more centered with their bindings on a powder ski, but if you want it to be more of a backcountry freestyle ski, it'll fill that role, and I think that's really cool. You can also put a Salomon shift binding on this ski and use it as kind of a hybrid resort powder touring ski. It's not the lightest thing in the world, but pretty much the stance binding was designed for the QST skis, so certainly a good choice to put on these. And then we don't worry too much about groomer performance on a ski that's 112 underfoot, but I will say that this ski certainly performs better than the 118 did, and that is valuable to have. You know, when we're out powder skiing, chances are you're going to have to get on a groomer, you're going to have to get on a cat track at some point. This ski is a little more responsive. I think it holds an edge better. I think it just feels, it's more fun to ski on a groomer. You can actually ski it on a groomer instead of the 118. You were just kind of like trying to steer it back to the lift and not doing much else on it. So super fun ski. I really like the way that Salomon's kind of strengthened it underfoot with those double sidewalls, but it's still a QST. And if you watch our content before, if you're familiar with Salomon's skis, you'll know that QSTs are known for being playful and fun-loving skis. So I think it's a valuable addition to the QST line. I'm certainly one skier that's not bummed that they got rid of the 118. I prefer skiing this over the 118. So that's the new Salomon QST blank. Let us know if you have any questions about it as usual, and we will see you out there on the slopes.